Hi, good evening, everyone. We'll start call to order this regular member of the Sebastian City Council. If you would all rise for a moment of silence and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Councilmember Dodd. Roll call, please.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Here.
Councilmember Dodd?
Here.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Here.
And Councilmember Nunn?
Here.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. We've got one agenda item that has been requested that we add, and it would be a request for an executive session by City Attorney Anand. We'll put that under your matters, Mr. Anand, if that's okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, is there anything else?
Mr. Mayor, I just noticed that under A, 6A, brief announcements and that we have Grave Brothers, but somehow the presentation or the question from Sebastian River Improvement District was supposed to be before that.
I'm sorry, where are we looking? We're looking at...
That would become A, and then Graves Brother Workshop Summary from Community Development would be B, if that's okay.
So what would be A? The one that's...
Sebastian River Improvement District, they were asked to come here and answer questions.
Yes, okay. Is it okay with council?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we have an A and a B now under 6.
Yeah, Graves Brothers Annexation Workshop Summary will be B.
Okay.
And A will be presentation.
For the district, okay.
Sebastian Improvement District. All right, any other modifications? All right, we'll make those without objection. All right, thank you. At 6:08, we will now have a presentation from the Sebastian Water Improvement District.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
So what was asked of staff was to ask Sebastian River Improvement District to come and answer any questions the council may have regarding what happens with the improvement district if and when the property annexes into the city. So I'm not sure they actually have a presentation, but they're here to answer those pertinent questions that you may have regarding the duties and responsibilities of the drainage district.
Okay, wonderful.
Mr. Bass is here with his operations manager to do that for you.
Okay, great. Gentlemen, how are you this evening?
Thank you.
Great to have you here.
I'm a board member of the improvement district. I can answer any questions, but I think it might be better Frank is the administration of the improvement district.
Okay.
Hold it. We're both here to answer
He's got it.
questions.
Sorry about that, Mr. Bass.
We have a mic issue.
There we go.
We're here to answer any questions that you have about the annexation as it relates to the district. So we don't have a formal presentation, but we're here to answer your questions. I think Councilman Mr. McCarlin had some questions, or anybody else that has some, please feel free to ask.
Okay, wonderful. Councilman McPartlin, you had requested that these gentlemen come this evening. Do you have anything specific you would like to request from them?
Oh, well, I actually caught their meeting a couple of weeks ago down at the county commission, and I met the gentleman with Mr. Graves currently. I guess, one of the big questions I have is as far as, the property that's there, what happens in the future, like considering Sebastian's stormwater tax? Would any of the properties there, fall under that and be paying that?
Did you hear and understand that question?
I think if I understood the question is what happens with respect to the Sebastian River Improvement District with those lands should they become annexed into the city of Sebastian? And the very simple answer is nothing. In that the Sebastian River Improvement District, those lands, those canals, those rights-of-ways that currently exist within the boundaries of the district, whether they are city or county, would still be maintained the same way through the district. Every year, the district takes a look at the maintenance obligations that they project out for the following year. and then we build a budget based on that, and then we make those assessments to the landowners within the district in their non-ad valorem section of the tax bill to line up with the maintenance obligations the district has. That would continue to occur regardless of whether it's been annexed by the city of Sebastian or remains in the county.
Okay. Mr. McFarland?
Yes. Well, I mean, what I want to know is that property, would they be paying any money into the city's stormwater taxes? Because I remember the last time when I was on council and we were looking at the annexation of this property and it was less amount of acreage, they had about like $340,000 would be coming in, I believe it was annually, to the stormwater fee for Sebastian. Is that accurate, or?
We'll ask Mr. Carlisle to go ahead and answer that question. Mr. Carlisle?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, it's a complicated question, but the simple answer is our stormwater fees for the city, if your property, and there are properties within the city that do not drain into our system, so those properties are billed a 10% management fee based on our oversight of their projects. Where additional fees might come in is if a developer developed a piece of property and turned that drainage system or those drainage structures and roadways over to the city, then those property owners would be assessed a stormwater fee. But currently, properties, and again, I believe the current property for Spirit of Sebastian doesn't discharge into our system. We annex that in, and they pay, based on their acreage, a 10% management fee. So that's how our structure is today. Not to say that it wouldn't ever change, but if we're not managing the system and maintaining the system, then it is a 10% management fee. And in this case, I believe it's about $62,000.
So what is essentially the way it works is just like it does on any other annexed properties. We will collect basically fees for whatever the services it is that inspection fees or something to that effect, where the actual per unit cost for maintaining that water will go to the person maintaining that water. It's not going to be the city of Sebastian, it'll be some other entity, which is like many of the other annexations we've had in the city for years.
That's correct.
Yeah, so, okay. Mr. McFarland?
Yes. But did I hear that number was at $62,000?
Based on current acreage, I think that was the estimate.
Well, it was the $62,000 upfront, and then whatever the assessment would be at the 10% of the normal storm utility rate. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor, I think you referenced Spirit of Sebastian. The $62,000 amount was what you're anticipating collecting from Spirit of Sebastian, not from this property.
This property.
From this property?
Yeah, I had Lisa calculate it, or Michelle Faulkner calculate it.
Okay.
I was
confused. I thought I heard you say Spirit of Sebastian, so.
Then it'll be approximately a $62,000 upfront cost for administration fees, and then as the process goes along, then there will be about a 10% fee associated to each of those properties relative to what our stormwater utility is.
Yeah, as it develops, those additional fees would be charged to those different developments, depending, it could be 10% or it could be 100% if we take over the roadways and the infrastructure.
Okay.
As they develop.
Yeah.
It's just, I remember the number that was in the last annexation agreement from years ago. I thought it was over 300,000.
That may have been, and all of the numbers that we're even discussing at this moment are estimates.
Right. But I mean, that was in at the time, and then again, that was less. I'm just wondering, the difference between the 300 and now it's down 60. So that's fine.
Go ahead, Mr.
It would be speculation. In the last annexation, they did a cost analysis because we had all the land uses and the different commercial, residential land uses laid out in that plan. So that plan would have had additional fees attached to it based on the impervious areas and the development. So it's apples and oranges this application compared to the last one, because the last one had a depiction of all all of the potential uses on it. This one doesn't have any zoning, so that would be my speculation would be that would be the difference.
Okay, anything else?
And then I guess, does the Sebastian River Improvement District have any kind of opinion on, like, if this tract became fully developed, the impact that it might have on the rest of the improvement district?
No, the board has not opined in any fashion as to the effect of the annexation on surrounding properties. But important to note here that, again, regardless of what happens with the properties, the Sebastian River Improvement District is solely focused and responsible for the drainage, the canals, the structures, and the rights-of-way that are controlled, maintained, and operated by the district. If development does occur in an area within our district, then they will have to come into the district for permitting for any connection or use of our facilities. So, I mean, that's the extent of what the district does. To step outside of that lane is not something that our board has done.
Anything else, Mr. McFarland?
No, I mean, I have no other questions. I mean, I learned a lot by attending their meeting a couple of weeks ago, so thank you for having me.
Okay, anything from council? Anything other questions from?
No.
No, thank you very much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you guys for coming up here today.
You bet. Thank you for the opportunity.
That'll move us to item 6B, Graves Brothers Annexation Workshop Summary. Mr. Carlisle.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, as you know, we held 2 workshops, one for the daytime and one in the evening. They were very well attended. We had some very open and honest conversations with the residents and visitors that came in from the different organizations and tried to explain to them why we, the city, think it's best that the city control the development on its borders. I think we did a good job, and our staff, Lisa, Michelle, Kim, Aaron, Taylor, and all those, I mean, they did a yeoman's job in bouncing around from people to people, and you, the council that attended and helped lead those discussions, and I think it was very fruitful. Ms. Frazier has some documents that she wants to produce that you have to talk about the different questions and the things that were brought up or in your packet. Were we going to play the slideshow, Lisa? And so we were going to play the slides that we showed to the public.
Sure.
But the fact is this property is on our border. We look at it as an opportunity not only to address things in our city that are lacking, jobs, retail, affordable housing, all of the things that make a community are something that we can't necessarily do within our existing borders. But beyond that, it's going to provide job centers for not only our community, but the county, Gifford, Wabasso, Fellsmere. I mean, it could be a great new hub for that type of industry, jobs, education. You know, one of the things I said, wouldn't it be nice to have maybe a hospital on the west side of the railroad tracks or a medical facility? I think that would be a good idea. So these are things that we're looking at in the future, you know, I think is possible. Will they all come to fruition? As I always say, I don't have a crystal ball. But if without a vision, you're going to be walking blind, and I think we have to have some direction and vision, which we look to the council to help provide. And for tonight, we're going to ask you, after this, to tell us the next steps you'd like for us to take in moving this forward or not, and how we come to the next steps.
All right, great. Lisa? Ms. Frazier, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And I apologize, I really wasn't preparing to come up here tonight, so I'll wing it like I always do. So as the city manager astutely presented to all of you, that we had a successful, at least in my opinion, 2 workshops. And as you see by the attendees, we had quite a bit for our city. Mm-hmm. And we had workshops for the comp plan that were very poorly attended. And so we were very grateful for the city members to come out, the residents to give us their opinion. We were very grateful for the county and Fellsmere and non-residents to also come out and find out what's happening here in the city and get the answers that they needed. So following that workshop, of course, the city manager and the property owner for Graves Brothers. They had separate meetings, one with West Wabasso and one with the county. I believe there's been some other meetings in addition that are not here presented to you this evening. But they had very positive meetings talking about the concerns that may come up if this annexation goes through. What we as staff found as very telling was the 10 Principles of Smart Growth Worksheet. I don't know if you recall that. I think I might have it in here somewhere. Gang, can I pull up again?
It's like the last or second to last page.
Here we go. I think the density things were great. So we had presented this, of course it had boxes, and we were asking, what is your top 5? We did this also with the comp plan, and we found that there's similarities that the attendees felt were important and that they feel the council is finding important was pretty similar. I mean, they're preserving of open space and farmland. That's one of their top priorities. It's one of our top priorities, and we are showing that. And I'm very proud for the city to be doing that. The range of housing opportunities, we have repeatedly stated that we are committed to trying to provide attainable mix of housings. Good for us. And then, of course, encouraging community collaboration and transparency. This council has worked very hard at that, and of course, our great staff has also done that. So we were pleased about that. We were a little disappointed that not a lot of people provided us with any feedback in the questionnaires we gave them. However, we had been writing down the overriding questions that people had been asking us, and you'll see those down there. I don't know if you want me to take a stab at answering those. I'd be happy to. Why does Graves want to annex? Because they want to be a part of the city. If we see in our slides, which I know you're all familiar with because you were all there, Graves Brothers started with a land grant from the state back in the 1800s, and they gave their land, it's in one of these slides, provided those lands for the start of the city of Sebastian. They've always been a part of this community, and they'd like to continue to be. Why does anybody want to annex into the city? We have already annexed in, 50, 60 acres this year? I have another 10 on my desk, ready to go. So, well, kind of ready to go, ready to come in. Why do they want to come into the city? It's the same question. We're a great city. People would prefer to have their developments as part of a municipality that is well-known, well-respected, well-governed, as opposed to being out there in no one's land. I'm sorry. That's basically the answer, and it's longer than I wanted to give you. Environmental impacts, we don't know yet. We don't have any development plans. Will there be an assessment? I'm not sure what that means. Of course, any development will be assessed the exact same as any development. Right now, there are no assessments. Stormwater fees do get assessed, even on vacant land, even though it's based on impervious surface. It still gets assessed. As the manager rightly said, they will be charged that 10% management fee. Everyone does. Will conservation area be set aside in the annexation agreement? That's up to you all to determine that. Is Graves to receive higher density? Not necessarily. That's my true answer. In the county, they can do anything. They can change their land use and zoning in the county just like they do here and get higher density or lower density or do whatever they want. Other developments, has IRC already approved in this area? Well, we're all familiar with Liberty Park, which is putting 1,000 people on our border, and Blue Water Bay, which has, I can't even remember how many houses right on our border. Timeline schedule for this annexation process, again, up to y'all. If we start tonight, it's at least going to be another 4 or 5 months. Financial impacts per household. A report was submitted with the application. Again, any development's going to be the exact same. They're going to be charged the exact same. I do not see this as being existing households bearing the impact of this development any more than any other development. Workshop, once the annexation agreement has been finalized, up to y'all. What specifically will be addressed in the up to y'all. But I do want to state that as I was mulling this over 5 minutes ago, that as you see, the next steps would be bringing the future land use request, map request, to your LPA, and then back to you all, and if you want, to transmit it up to DEO, and then it gets vetted with all of our stakeholders, as well as the state. This may be a good process to proceed with, if you would like, only because I believe it'll give us even more feedback on what our stakeholders and the state and your LPA feel about this annexation request, and possibly be able to fold that information into any annexation agreement you may want to consider. It's just a thought that I thought I would put out there. The staff is ready to go, kind of. I'm short-staffed. But we're ready to go and proceed. And we're looking for your direction for this. Do you want more workshops? We're ready to do that. If you'd like more meetings, of course, the city manager is always willing and ready to do that. And so is the property owner. Just looking for your pleasure on this. Okay?
Thank you very much, Ms. Fraser. And anything else at this moment?
No, I think
I'll put a bow on
Lisa
it.
said it very succinctly. I think the property owner's here that can answer some questions if you would like as well. But again, we're open to comments and suggestions from this council on how best to proceed. I believe Lisa had said it, that moving forward will still allow plenty of time for public input. There's a lot of opportunity through the planning and zoning as we move forward.
And there are many statutory, I'll go first, thank you. There are many, and I'm going to go briefly first, and then I'll probably go last again, so I'm the chair. I kind of will do that. So basically what we're going to do here is we're going to just have a discussion amongst council to sort of allow the city manager to understand where the feeling of council is through consensus, the direction we want to go going forward. I quite frankly am very, very appreciative of you having the meetings. They're very informative meetings. And the process that we have to go through, there are statutory requirements that are in place that are going to require that every single step we go forward with is a very, very open process where the public will be highly involved every single step of the way. And that includes going through the state and the local authorities. There will be the opportunity for objections from folks out there who may object to this, and I know we have a few. But the fact of the matter is, I'm going to keep my opening very brief. I think that it's time to continue forward. The council has determined that we will go forward with the annexation of this property, and I think that it's time to go forward with the statutory requirements as outlined. And so that's my first 2 cents.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Mr. Dodd.
Lisa, I hate to ask you a question and make you walk back up here, but since we're bringing this property in as a totally mixed-use zoning, or
Yes,
totally
sir.
mixed-use land use.
Yes, sir.
A future land use map is basically going to show 1,900 acres of mixed use.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what I wanted to make clear. I wanted to be clear that we're not going to have a future land use map like we had the last time that tries to do more than that, because it confused the issue greatly.
That is not what's being requested by the applicant. But may I remind you that in the last go-round of this, the state and Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council recommended that we come up with a mixed-use land use. And
Yes.
so then we went through comp plan and
Okay.
came up with it.
Now, do we need, in order to send the future land use map to the state and to the Treasure Coast Planning Council, Regional Planning Council, do we need to finalize any additional work on the definition of mixed use, or is what's in the comp plan sufficient for that?
That is fine, yes. We will be moving forward with a mixed-use zoning, but at
Right.
this point, that's not what we need to do. The LPA should consider this. It is brought back to the council. You do a transmittal meeting, hearing, the first reading, really, of the ordinance, and send it up to DEO. Once it comes back, you all have another chance to reconsider.
Okay, thank you.
All right? I'm going
All
to
right,
stand over here in case you need.
Yeah, that's actually what I thought, but I wanted to make sure I got the information from the expert down there. And I fully support moving forward right now with the future land use map, submitting it to, going through the LPA, which is the P&Z Council, going through them and coming back so we can submit it. And actually not doing not finalizing the annexation agreement until after that process takes place. And once we get through that process and then finalize the annexation agreement, I am personally very much in favor of having a workshop on the annexation agreement. Present it to the public, give them an opportunity to get feedback. I don't know how we can, whether we need to do it similar to what was done with the last workshop, but let them see it before the meeting in which we say yes or no to the annexation and get some feedback on it. I know there are the same groups that we all know are going to object to certain things, but if we didn't learn anything in 2019, it's foolishness on our part to think about that. We should have learned from 2019. And so I would like to see us do a workshop on the annexation agreement.
An informational workshop to present to the public
I mean, basically, that's what the last two workshops
Exactly.
were. They were informational.
Exactly. Right.
The majority of the people that were in the last two workshops were asking questions because they didn't understand, and when they got answers that they understood, they were happy with it. And I attended both of them. I got really good feelings from from the people that were there. So I would like to see us present that and get feedback prior to the time it comes to the council for approval on that.
And we can establish that meeting time once we get through that other process, because we have no idea when that's going to be.
Yeah, we don't know the time frame for any of
Correct.
that, and
Yes, sir.
I don't think this annexation is going to be finalized until somewhere near the end of the year anyway. I mean, I can't imagine that we can get through it much faster than that. You guys might think we can, but I don't know that we can, so.
Well,
Yeah.
you don't know. The last couple of years, it's been a nightmare, but who knows? Mr. Nunn?
So, I think the workshops we had were great. I think the people that are against it are the same people that have been against it all along, and their opinions are never going to be changed, even if they try to convince us to hire them to be our environmental experts, like their letter said, which hasn't been brought up yet, which I think is crazy. It's not required. We have a very, very well-educated professional staff that can handle this annexation wonderfully. I feel very confident with their skill set. We've done everything right. What I learned from the annexation that I wasn't a part of to begin with was make sure you don't have 3 people running for office with a lot of lies and a messed up map that caused you to lose. That's right. That's not happening this time. So it's a map isn't going to turn this annexation around like it did last time. So I think we need to move forward. I have no problem with what Mr. Dodd or Mayor Hill said with having an informational workshop about what the annexation agreement includes after the first steps, in between. Something that doesn't hold this process up is fine. I don't want to see the process held up to get through the annexation. And then once this property is part of Sebastian, it'll be treated like any other property that's in the city of Sebastian. It has to go through all these zoning and other processes and reviews and hearings, just like any other piece of property does. The absurdity that once it's annexed is a free card to do whatever he wants to do. He knows that's not what gets to happen. You still have to go through all the processes as if the property was already in the city of Sebastian. So I feel very confident that we're on the right road, move forward, and let's get the annexation done.
Yes, sir. I'm definitely all in favor of moving forward for now to the next phase. I attended both of the workshops. I've spoken to many people in our community, and I think this is the right thing for the city at this point, and so I'm all in favor of moving forward.
All right, thank you. Mr. McParland?
Yeah, hey, I was in favor of the annexation the last time. I don't know where everybody got a little crazy or whatever. But I would like to see on, page 21 of our agenda, which had the frequently asked questions that Lisa had collected. I would like to see those answered and probably put up on Channel 25 to the best of the ability. And I agree with Mr. Dodd. We can go forward, but I'd like to, before the final annexation meeting, I'd like to see the annexation agreement and have two informational workshops. And then, I don't know if we could do a regular meeting with how are things going with the county so far? We've had, what, 1 or 2 meetings?
I'm sorry, Bob, I didn't catch that. What was the question?
We've had 1 or 2 meetings with the county. I know Mr. Carlisle, Mr. Brown, and Mr. Bass were there, and then he had a follow-up meeting with the utilities director from the county. How are those going?
Mr. Carlisle?
They were very, very informative. They were very cordial. I believe it's a whole different position the county is taking. They're wanting to work with us. They're just wanting some numbers. What I gathered from my conversations with Mr. Bass and that he had with the utilities and the planning and zoning staff and the utilities director, the public works director, and the county manager, the flavor of the day for both our meeting and his meeting were just some planning numbers so that the county can look at utility needs moving forward. And so we've given them some information on that, and I think we'll still be working on that, but I think we've reached a point where they understand and the annexation's moving forward, and they just wanted to know how to plan for the future. And I thought that was some very productive meetings.
Right, because I thought, I was at both workshops as well. They had all attended the first workshop, and, they weren't necessarily against the annexation. They just had some questions. I don't know if there's a possibility where we could have, I don't know, a workshop with the county to discuss any of the possibilities.
Well,
or problem areas.
Yeah, my personal belief on that is that you're immediately politicizing something that shouldn't be politicized. Dealing with the nuts and bolts issues of an annexation should be dealt with by staff. They're the ones who are the professionals. They're the ones who are hired to do this job, to determine, what we need to do to either make the county happy or to explain to them that they're not going to be happy. Because it's not our job either to please the county. It's not our job to get their thumbs up. Now, I understand that you want to work with Mr. McPartland, and that's what the city manager's doing, and I appreciate that work he's doing. Any of those council members or county commissioners can call me. I'm sure you've spoken to a few, it sounds like. I think that I would like to see the political end of it remain up here and professional, and then we can just let our professional staff deal with those other issues. Just my opinion.
Okay. I had gone down to their county meeting and invited them to the workshop. So I don't know if maybe Mr. Brown can come up and do a presentation on what's been agreed upon or any of the problem areas, if that's possible.
But maybe he can.
Okay.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. So I believe you have direction. Okay.
I do, and so we'll bring this, I'll have staff prepare the documents to take it to its next step.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. That leaves us with brief announcements. Mr. Nutt, you could go ahead and read the brief announcements this evening. I appreciate that.
Friday, August 5th, we have the Sebastian Police Department Back to School Fun Day at the Barber Street Sports Complex. 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Police officers are going to be giving out hot dogs, snow cones, water activities, and school supply giveaways. That'll be our COPE team there. Friday, August 12th, Sebastian River Area Grill Out Night. Various community business from 5:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. The theme is Sweet and Sunny Citrus. That'll be all of our local businesses. The Chamber is one of our businesses, and they'll give all that information out if you have more questions. Saturday, August 13th to August 20th, early voting in the City Council chambers, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. So if you're wanting to get your vote in as soon as possible, starting Saturday, August 13th to August 20th here in chambers.
All right, thank you so much for that. Item 7, public input. At this time, I will ask anyone from the public who wishes to bring something before this council, anything that's not currently on the agenda, you have 5 minutes to do so. Anyone? Yes, ma'am. Come up, state your name, where you live. You have 5 minutes.
Hi, Robin Reif, resident of Sebastian for 26 years. I live at 105 Aeolian Hart Path in Cross Creek Lake Estates. And I'm just asking that the council member, mayor, council members, that you revisit the color palette for the commercial buildings in the city of Sebastian. I looked and they're 30 years old. It's a 30-year-old color palette. It's kind of antiquated. And I'd just like to see it refreshed a little bit. with more of a tropical feel or a fishing type feel to entice more tourism and more people into the city of Sebastian to increase the economy for the local businesses.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you very much for
Thank
bringing
you.
that forward.
I appreciate it.
All right. Anyone else from the public wish to bring something before this body? All right, thank you very much. I'll close public input at this time. Mr. Carlisle, could you, at some point, kind of just get us the palette, the color palette, and an explanation as to where it came from and how that's in place? I've heard a couple of other concerns about it, so, you know, if you could just give council the information on the color palette, and then we can kind of decide what to do from there, okay? Thank you very much.
Could
Yes,
I,
sir.
if I could, and maybe if Mrs. Reif could maybe reach out to you with some ideas of colors that the village owners and things like that would like to see, so we have an idea of what they're looking at, would that be helpful?
It would be.
Okay.
We'd be happy to take a look at that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, the issue is the overlay is very specific in its color palettes, and it's part of a broader sort of what the community looks like. And yes, it is, I'm not sure if it's 30 years old. It might be 30 years old, but if we could get the information on it, that would be great, and we could take a look, okay? All right, thank you. Leads us to item 8. I will now recess the city council meeting and reconvene as the Community Redevelopment Agency. Item 8A, approval of minutes. Council, what's your direction?
I'll move approval, Mr. Mayor.
I got a motion and a second. Second by Mr. Dodd. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, passed unanimously. Item B, facade, sign, and landscape program. B1, consider grant request for 1101 US Highway 1. Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, there's 3 applications and it's for the village shops that has been recently purchased. I believe all the applicants are here. This is to upgrade the facade and the improvements along US 1 that face US 1, both signage, painting, and some landscaping. And the reason it's in 3 applications is just for the edification is because each property tenant or owner can apply. And if they just did it as one property owner, the grant only allows for 50% cost share up to $15,000. And that would have not done what needed to be done. And in fact, each tenant is allowed to apply separately. So this will allow them to get the best value, and we can get the best looking project that we can for what they're trying to do. I think it's a great opportunity. So the first one is actually Ms. Rafe's, Douglas Elman Real Estate Transmittal, and we would ask council to approve that application. It was $9,992.53.
Anyone on the committee have any questions of staff, or would they like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve.
I'll second that.
Any questions of staff or comments on item BI?
I just have one, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
You know, in all my years, I seen that there was for painting and like minimal construction or removal. I don't recall that in any of the other FSL grants in the past, but this is a covered item?
Mr. Carlisle?
Yeah, so the removal and replacement is part of the cost to do the upgrade. So we assumed that would all be included.
Okay. And then painting? So I never recalled any painting, but that's in the grant, that the ability to do it?
Yeah, it all falls under the facade improvements, so it's painting. This one actually has all of the components: signage, facade improvements, and landscaping. So that's why you have that. But to improve the facade, you have to repair and do that. The only painting that we're actually paying for is the segments that are visible from the US 1 roadway, not the entire building.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure it was covered, because I don't recall anybody ever coming before for painting as part of the grant.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any more questions of staff? All right, roll call, please.
Vice Chairman Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Dodd?
Yes.
Mr. McPartlin?
Yes.
Mr. Nunn?
Yes.
And Chairman Hill?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Item B2, consider grant request for 1103 US Highway 1. Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this is, I got the wrong one. This one is for the 1103 US Highway 1, Suzanne Willie Studios, and they're asking to, again, for the approval to do their upgrades for $12,000. The amount they're asking for is $12,468.55.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I move approval.
Second that?
All right, thank you. Any questions of staff?
I just want to point out that I drove past a couple of times this past week after we got the agenda packet, and this is going to be a great improvement to the front of that complex.
Oh, sure.
On US 1, so it's going to be a good
And
improvement.
the village is now the district.
The district.
The district.
The district.
Very exciting.
All right, outstanding. Just one question. This will be, the next two items, this and the next, will be basically depleting the remainder of what we have in the FSL, and then it will be will be refunded again in October?
We do not,
Possibly, sir. I'm sorry, sir. He was looking at me. I apologize.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Mr. Carlisle?
we currently, in trying to balance the budget, we did not, and we've been having such little response for the facade improvement grant.
Okay.
We did not include funds for next year for the facade improvement grant in our budget. That could be amended, but right now, this will more than use up what we have in our budget for
That's correct. Okay.
projects we have.
All right, no more questions. Anything else from council?
Yeah, just one question, Ms. Frazier. Did the other 8,000 that's being dispersed, it has not been sent out yet, or they?
Correct, it's still pending, but they are working towards that. It's the car wash. Yes, it was approved, and it's pending, and that has already been deducted from our total amount. So it is still there. But yes, this is going to take us to zero. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Hearing nothing else, roll call, please.
Mr. Dodd?
Yes.
Mr. McPartlin?
Yes.
Mr. Nunn?
Yes.
Chairman Hill?
Yes.
And Vice Chairman Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Item B3, consider grant request for 1105 US Highway 1. Mr. Carlisle.
So this is the cat's meow. It is actually eligible for $11,083.21, but the remaining budget is $9,490.07. And so we recommend approval of the $9,490.07, which is the remaining budget amount in the grant.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like to make a two-part motion. First, that we approve the $9,490.07 from the budgeted amount, and that we do an off-budget approval for $1,593.14. That'll fund the entire $11,083.21.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on that. Any discussion from council on that?
Did you do the calculations?
Yes, I did.
Is it 1,800, you said?
No, the off-budget is $1,593.14.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Where would those funds come from, Mr.
So it
Carlisle?
would have to come from the CRA reserve.
Okay, and we have we have plenty there.
We do.
Okay. Any discussion from council or questions? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this? All right, hearing none. Roll call, please.
Mr. McPartlin?
Yes.
Mr. Nunn?
Yes.
Chairman Hill?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Jones?
Yes.
And Mr. Dodd?
Yes.
All right,
Motion
thank you all.
carries.
Now adjourn the Community Redevelopment Agency and reconvene as the City Council. Council, that leads us to item 10, the consent agenda. What's your pleasure on item 10?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion for approval of the consent agenda.
I'd like to pull item E, if I can, please.
I'm sorry, that was E?
Yes. Sorry.
Mr. McFarland, is there anything you would like to remove from the consent?
No, I move approval of A, B, C, D, F, G, and H.
I second that.
A motion and a second by Councilmember Nunn. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
And Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, item E.
Yes, sir.
This is primarily a budgeting question. The additional $69,725 would be picked up in the 22-23 budget, because that's when this goes into effect, correct?
It would go into effect now.
Okay.
And it would carry through the 22-23 budget. We would reevaluate it at the end of that year.
So the 22-23 budget would go from 579 and change to 649 and change, right?
Correct.
Okay? And we would be over budget then for some part of the funds for the remainder of this fiscal year.
Yes, by the $69,725.
Okay. And it says here, golf course, where are we gonna pull the over budget funds for this year from, on the golf course? They don't have any money.
So it's gonna come out, well, the golf course has some additional revenues that they didn't anticipate because of the additional play we've had. So we do have budgeted dollars over the anticipated revenue to cover this. I believe it will cover the 69,000.
Okay. And then when we roll this into the 22-23 budget, the current 22-23 budget shows a $77,000 line item for additional maintenance to buildings or something under the greens component. That's on page 115 of the draft.
I believe that's a replacement of the netting at the driving
so
range.
will that go away in order to fund this $69,000?
No, because we have to replace that.
So so we have an issue with revenue generation in 22-23 that this $69,000 is gonna cause.
We'll balance the budget with it. We'll have to, we have to, I mean, it's.
So you're gonna have to cut something at the golf course.
Or fund it.
Or fund it from some other way.
Yeah, we'll fund it from general fund.
Okay, all right.
But the golf course, as stated, the golf course has seen an increase in revenues that will likely more than cover the additional cost of this.
Yeah, I know the golf course is a great amenity for the city. I agree, and we should do what we have to maintain it. But every time I look down at budgets and I see a $500,000 note to the building department and a $600,000 note to the rest of the city and paying it off at $30,000 a year, which means it'll get paid off in 70 years with no interest. Apply interest to it, and everybody in this room is going to be dead, and golf's going to be an old sport by the time they pay that loan off. So anything that we do at the golf course that makes it more difficult for them to operate and pay back those loans, and anything that we can do to make it more convenient and expeditious for them to pay back those loans is better for the city. Because I know the people at the golf course don't want to owe the city money. You know, they really don't want to do it, and they do a great job out there, and I would not do anything to jeopardize the golf course.
And the city golf course is the city's city also.
Yes, the city.
Like any of the other parks, and that's not something that's
when we get into next year's budget discussions, we can talk about maybe some options that we can do. I don't know. I would be in favor, if need be, of doing something like writing off loans or doing something to free up those guys. But we can talk about that.
Well, the real issue that we're dealing with here is that although the gas prices are tremendously increasing gas prices and the overall cost of everything, the cost of a barrel of oil affects so many different aspects of a golf course. Fertilizer is much more expensive. It doubles. In fact, I think the fertilizer costs, from speaking with superintendents in the industry, their costs have just gone up exponentially across the board.
I'm not questioning the additional revenue request. I think they deserve it, and I understand the issues that caused them to have to do that. I was just talking about how we handle that through our overall financial system. And we can't spend money unless we have, well, I shouldn't say that, we can if we choose to, but we shouldn't spend money unless we have corresponding revenue.
Agreed.
You know, cash-based accounting requires you to have cash before you pay it out, you know, kind of thing. So, okay, I move approval of item 10E.
Second that.
All right, any other discussion on item E? Roll call, please.
I just didn't realize that they use so much fuel out at the golf course over the course of a year.
It's very fuel dependent with all those mowers, greenskeepers, right-of-way mowers, and it's very fuel dependent.
Okay. And then we should also anticipate they'll be coming back because the minimum wage is going up to $15 an hour in a couple of years. So I imagine they're going to come back when the hourly rate is 15.
So the contract expires in 2024, I believe, so we'll be probably going back out to bid, or we're probably going to have to go back out to bid then, and we can probably see some pretty significant increases in the cost. This cost only covers their direct cost to continue the level of service that we're at right now.
And these guys do a great job.
They do.
The course is in great shape. They maintain the course very well.
Yep, anything further?
No.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Hill,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones,
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd,
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin,
Yes.
And Councilmember Nunn.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for that. Leads us to item 11, committee reports and appointments. Council, we have 4 appointments to make this evening. 3 regular member positions to the Natural Resources Board. I would actually nominate Ruth Callahan and Donna Ware to regular member positions to expire 7/1/25. Those are the 2 of the regular member positions.
And I'd like to nominate, if I'm saying that right, Sharinda Billman to the other regular member position, and Sandra Hagerty to the alternate position.
I second what he just said and you said.
Okay.
I feel like Sharita has the best experience to be the third full member, and Sarah can learn from them in the alternate position. So it's perfect opportunity.
Okay, so we're going with Sarah as the alternate.
And the top 3 is full
original 2.
positions.
Correct, I like it.
So we're going with, I'm sorry.
The top 3 in full positions?
Yes.
And Sarah Haggerty into the alternate position.
That sounds exactly right. Mr. McParland, do you have anything to add to that? Or is that okay with you?
No, thank you for your service.
Yes.
Okay, yep, thank you guys for your service. We appreciate it very much. It's a
I'd just
very
like to
important
add,
board.
Mr. Mayor, if I can add this.
Yep.
Jessica Lovell has moved, and I just want to make sure everyone understands she was an extremely active and important member of that group, and she's left. I don't know if we were able to get her some type of a certificate of appreciation or not, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. And we thank those new members for coming in. Anyone else, anyone have any committee reports that they would like to bring up? All right, hearing none, I will just mention that I did go to the, oh shoot, what was my committee? Do you remember what the name of that committee? Yeah, the Elected Officials Oversight Committee for school concurrency. I went to that meeting, and a question was specifically asked of the planner for the schools, if and this is just for information to the public, if the annexation would adversely affect school concurrency, and the answer was provided that it would not affect school concurrency. In fact, at this time, there's plenty of concurrency to handle anything that takes place on that property.
Awesome.
So. All right, public hearings. We have item 12A, a presentation by Corbett Alday, Guardian Resource Management. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. Corbett Alday with Guardian Community Resource Management, offices Dade City for the record. Coming before you once again for your annual action plan for the Community Development Block Grant Program, the CDBG program. This is a grant from HUD, U.S. HUD, Housing and Urban Development, to the city based on a consolidated plan which was adopted 3 years ago, and then an annual action plan which specifies what we will do with the annual allocation of funding. This year's annual allocation is $130,889. We have to meet a national objective with the funds, which is primarily to benefit low and moderate income persons. We can do elimination of slum and blight and urgent needs, but we must spend at least 70% of the money on low and moderate income persons. To help you understand what low and moderate income means, it changes, it's defined by HUD, and it changes year to year, but not by much. But for a family of 4, the moderate income would be $63,900. So that would be the maximum that someone can earn and benefit from the program. Low income is $39,950, and very low or extremely low is $27,750. The activities proposed are the same activities that were proposed this past year or this current year. The home repair program for veterans, elderly, and disabled has been very successful, and it also spends 100% of the funds on low and moderate income persons, and so it keeps us in that 70% range. And then there's an administration budget. Home repairs are for code, safety, health, or ADA accommodation for income qualified candidates. There's an income qualification process. If someone is interested, it's open to all houses in the city that are owner occupied. So if you own the house and you live in the house, you can apply for the program. These are the reasons that the staff is recommending fully funding the housing program. The primary focus will be on veterans, the elderly, and the disabled. We will be doing at least 3 houses with a focus on very low income and low income. And with that, I'm here for your questions and comments. There is an action item after this hearing for approving the signatures on the annual action plan.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Any questions from staff? I'm sorry, from council? All right, anyone from the public wish to speak on the presentation? All right, hearing none. Thank you very much. Item 12B, public hearing, resolution number R-22-18. Mr. Carlisle. I'm sorry, Mr. Anand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a resolution for the City of Sebastian, Indian River County, Florida, approving a Community Development Block Grant 2022-2023 Annual Action Plan and authorizing the mayor to execute to transmit all documents to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, providing for conflict, providing for scrivener's errors, providing for an effective date.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, this is the action plan for the next fiscal year funding. As Mr. Adelaide had expressed, we have discussed this and we feel that the best use of these funds will be to help the low-income veterans, disabled, and elderly within our community. This has been a very successful program. We've seen some great outcomes with this. And if Lisa, if you have any direct questions, Lisa's been working directly with them on this. But as we move forward, I think that this is a good benefit, and I think it's something that's well needed in our community.
Yeah, 100%. We've done a lot with the block grants over the years. So, council, any questions of staff, or is there direction?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve a resolution R-22-18.
18?
Second.
All right, a motion and a second by Mr. McPartland. Anyone from the public wish to speak on resolution R-22-18? Any questions from council? Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartland?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
And Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, item 13, unfinished business. There is none, because we finish our business around here. And then item 14, new business. Item 14A, resolution number R-22-17. Mr. Anand?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a resolution for the City of Sebastian, Indian River County, Florida, recognizing certain adjustments to the budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021, and ending September 30, 2022, as provided for in Exhibit A, providing for conflict, providing for scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date.
Mr. Carlisle.
Mr. Mayor, yeah, Mr. Kilgore's here to give the third quarter financial report, and I think we're in pretty good shape. Some of our numbers are looking really good, but he'll go over it, and then if there's any brief questions, we'll be happy to answer them for you.
Thank you, Mr. Kilgore, please.
Thank you. As you can see from the attachments, there are a few budget adjustments, not near as many as we've had in other quarters, and none of them really all that significant except for the appropriation for the canal improvements project. We put that in the budget calculations for next year, so we're removing it from this year's budget amounts. So it's just an accounting type change. Like I said, there's a couple uses of R&R funds for air conditioner repairs. Nothing really significant. On the next page of the of the document, we've showed the general fund summaries. I'd point out that the departmental expenses have been only 72% for the year, as opposed to at this point in the year, you would think 75% of the budget. So we're on track to stay well within the budget amounts for general fund. We've got some revenue items that are coming in strong. We just hope that continues, particularly the half-cent sales tax revenues, the state revenue sharing, and the utility franchise fees. So we are looking good, as the city manager pointed out. Fund balance is strong. In the other funds, I give you a breakdown of our most active funds, the Stormwater Fund, the Golf Course, Airport, and Building Fund. All of these are in okay shape. Getting back to the golf course, because I know that was talked about earlier, there is actually, we had a balanced budget this year, so the change that was approved tonight will be funded from the additional revenues over budget that have come in thus far. As far as the debts, I'll get to that on one of the following pages here to make sure you understand what those debt amounts are and how that affects this negative fund balance. From a cash flow point of view, I can show you a report on our cash balances and the amount we've got invested at the State Board of Administration. For the first time in recent years, I've been able to take out part of the cash that's held in the golf course bank account and put that into the SBA fund, which gets a little bit better return than the local bank can draw on those monies. So their cash flow position is much improved with this year's activities, and we just hope that does continue. Getting back to the capital project status report, you can see that we've done, I think, quite well as far as completing most of the projects that were possible to complete. About 81% of those funds have been either spent or are encumbered for the work to be done. As far as interfund loans, there is a loan from the building fund to the golf course. Initially, it was a $700,000 loan, and that loan was amortized at an interest rate. It's based on the 10-year Treasury interest rate, and it is adjusted every 5 years. So the golf course is managing those payments, the principal and interest on the amortization schedule. We've shown in the budget where we hope that they will start paying down a loan that was also made to general fund back in the days when we were doing all the improvements and there was a cash flow problem. So the general fund did advance some monies to the airport, to the golf course. And finally, there were some construction activities that were necessary at the time, including the restaurant and the irrigation systems, and so they are making progress towards getting in a better financial shape, and if activity continues, then I've got no concerns about being able to even perhaps down the road liquidate those loans in one fashion or another. The rest of the report are mostly detailed accounting, budget to actual comparisons, and the reports from the departments on their activities for the quarter. I'd be glad to respond to any questions.
Council, you have any questions of Mr. Kilgore? Well done, as always. Very informative, easy to read. These things are absolutely pleasurable. They're boring, but they're easy. It's easy to find the information. You did a great job as well, as always. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Council, what's your pleasure on R2217?
Move approval.
Second.
Any further discussion by council? Anyone from the public wish to speak on R2217? All right, hearing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 14B, set the proposed millage rate for fiscal year 22-23 at 3.0043. Mr. Carlisle.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, we've been through the Budget Committee on this, and they did recommend setting our trim rate. That may not be the final rate, but that rate will be what we can go lower than that, but not higher, at the 3.0043. We believe that, with negotiations and that outstanding, we did receive some great information on our insurance that's going to help our bottom line from 14% increase to 5%. So I think Ken and them did a great job working with the Garing Group and Cindy, getting those numbers down. I'm gonna tell you, I didn't think that would happen, but it's a great thing that happens. It's about a $106,000 increase, or $116,000, I think, in our insurance costs. But I'll let Mr. Kilgore do his presentation. He's got a lot of valuable information for you to help you make the decision on how we move forward.
Okay, great. Mr. Kilgore.
Okay. So as City Manager mentioned, we are following the trim process that the state requires, where we have to establish a proposed millage in this month and get back to the property appraiser so that she can advertise it on the trim notices that go out to the public. If we did try to do a higher rate, just for the public's information, the reason we wouldn't want to be in that position is you'd have to notify each member or each taxpayer by first-class mail, so we would incur that cost. So we've traditionally gone with a higher rate, or the rate that was levied the previous year, just to give us some cushion in case something does occur that we need to address between now and the September approvals. As City Manager mentioned, labor negotiations are pending. We do know what the increase, we do believe we know what the insurance premium increase is, and we did provide for that. We did allocate 5% increase, so we are fine as far as any possible change there. Just in a brief summary, as far as where the proposed budget stands, the pay rates have not been adjusted for any position at the current pay rates at this point, subject to negotiations. The group insurance is covered with the 5% increase. We do have 6 full-time positions, 3 of those being police officers that are being added to the budget, including their equipment. As we compile the budget, as we normally do, we aimed at balancing at the rollback rate. And when the day was done and we've gone through our departmental meetings and reviews of their requests, we were about $318,000 short of balancing. So the rollback rate is the 3.6834, but we had to increase that to the 2.8658 as the amount that's in our recommended proposed budget at this time. We did have a good year as far as, or a very good year as far as additions to the tax roll. The tax roll from additions is about a 3.03% increase. Reassessments went up 11.61%. So that's the reason why the rollback rate then appears like very high, very high as far as an increase. But I've got a chart here to kind of explain how the rollback rate affects the, or how that's calculated and what impact it has on the taxpayer. So if we did stick with the 3.0043 that we levied last year as our millage, then we would have $241,000 more than we have at this point with the proposed budget. So I did a chart here so you can actually see the differences between levying the rollback rate, levying the 2.8658 that we've got a proposed recommendation for at this point, or if you went with the same millage as last year. So it would show the amount of the additional funding, and it would show the percentage increase, and that percent would be advertised on the trim notice.
Ken, if I could interrupt you real quick on this. This is a very good slide here. Where we are with the negotiation, or with trying to balance the budget, the actual number as it stands is 2.8654, or 8, right? 2.8658?
Correct.
The obvious reasons for setting the trim notices in the event of anything unforeseen. And we have a lot of those potential unforeseens, right? I just wanted the public to see this line here where the total tax revenues generated from the millage will be at the current rate $5.24 million. What is the total budget that we're sitting at right now? 47? So I just want the public to
The amount
understand
of
that the,
ad valorem tax needed to balance the budget
Right.
at this point is the $4,998,401.
right, well, I'm just saying that the trim notices and the property taxes that are generated is actually a small percentage of the actual budget that will be passed eventually.
Yes.
And it's really about 10%, maybe a touch more, of the actual full budget at the end of the day, maybe 12%.
Of the
I know
full
you're-
budget, yes,
You're
sir.
a number hawk, so.
Probably about 23% of the general fund revenues.
Right, but the total overall budget, it's much different. So the taxes, when we're talking about the trim notices, it equals a very small portion of the amount of money in the funds that the city actually receives in revenues and utilizes to maintain the city. Because the maintenance of the city, including the police department and all other departments, costs much, much more than what is generated in the property taxes. So I just wanted to make that clear to everybody. Thank you.
Okay. So this slide I've presented in the past to show the amount of additional the individual on their property would receive on their tax bill, the amount of increase. Of course, the homestead properties are different than those that don't have the homestead protection. If you, even going with the 2.8658 millage, a homesteaded property is actually going to pay less taxes because of the rollback process. You do have the caps that the state set that a homesteaded property cannot increase their assessed value by more than 3%. Now keep in mind that even though the assessed value increases, say, by the full 3%, but they still get the same amount of homestead exemption. So when you look at the additional taxes they'll pay, it's actually like 3.3% in these examples. Whereas a non-homestead property could max out at the 10% increase, and their increase, when they look at their actual tax amount, would be 10% higher. So, people believe that their taxes are like a monumental burden, but if you look at the monthly cost that we'd be talking about, you're talking about $2 for even a $300,000 valued home. This chart is to kind of demonstrate what we've done as compared to adopting a rollback rate or not adopting, doing something higher. But for 68% of the last 11 years, we've been lower or below or at the same as rollback or lower for the last for 68% of the time. So that kind of sums up what points I wanted to make tonight. We still, have the future meetings to actually go through the proposed budget and the capital improvement program and our financial policies. So we'll be coming back with more details at that point. But as City Manager mentioned, the Budget Committee did agree that we should go with the 3.0043 millage that we adopted last year and proceed from there. I mean, we've still got some unknowns, and hopefully we can settle those and be off and running for next year.
Any questions of Mr. Kilgore from council? All right, thank you. Once again, splendidly done.
Thank you.
Anything else from staff at this time?
No, Mr. Mayor, we would appreciate direction from the council on how we should move forward with setting the trim rate. Again, we can always lower that rate, but we cannot raise it without some additional expense.
Okay, thank you very much. Council, what's your pleasure?
I'm in favor.
You want to?
I make a motion that we approve to move forward
With the 3.0043?
with the,
So the motion would be to set the millage rate, the proposed millage rate at 3.0043 on the DR 420.
I second that motion.
Motion by Vice Mayor Jones, seconded by Mr. Nunn. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this issue? We're setting the millage rate at the same number it was last night, proposed to go out in the trim notices for notice. All right, seeing none. Roll call, please.
Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank
All right, thank you. Item 14C, there's a request by staff to reschedule the Wednesday, September 14th council meeting. I would make a motion that we go ahead and do that.
I'll second that.
That's to reschedule September 14 to September 13. Anything from staff? Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I apologize, there are two items. You have to set the council meeting for Tuesday, September 13th to comply with the Florida Statute 200.065, and the second recommendation is to move the meeting from the 14th to the 13th. We do have to advertise that. We have to set that.
That is my motion, and does that continue to be your second, Councilmember Dodd? Got a motion, a second? Any questions from council to staff? Anyone from the public wish to speak on this issue? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, I probably have to do this through a roll call. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor Hill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones? Yes. Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
And Councilmember McPartlin?
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Under 15, City Attorney Matters, Mr. Anand asked us to add an item. Mr. Anand?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, we're requesting another executive session meeting pursuant to 286.011.8 and 447-6051. This one specifically is pertaining to union negotiations. We've done one. This will be the second one. Pretty much the chief, in this case the city manager, who's the chief negotiating, and his team will like an opportunity to meet with the legislative body to make some discussions before we start our next round of negotiations. And I believe the recommended date is tomorrow for Thursday, and or I'll leave it up to council. Is that correct, city manager?
That's correct. If we can.
Council, if we can go ahead and set that for tomorrow at 9 a.m., I would like that.
Can we do it in the afternoon?
What time's the afternoon?
Oh, I'd say like 1 o'clock.
Let me look and see.
1 o'clock works for me. But we'd have the ability to zoom into that meeting as well, right?
As long as we have a quorum.
Okay, yeah, I can do one.
1 o'clock?
Yeah.
1 o'clock? Mr. McPartlin, is 1 o'clock okay for you tomorrow?
I'll try and make it work. I thought it was going to be next week, but that's, I guess, my mistake.
Oh, can't wait.
All right, well, you can certainly zoom in and we can, I don't anticipate it being a very long meeting. What would you think? 30 minutes, a half?
I would think so.
So it shouldn't be a long meeting, so. All right, so we're all set? Go ahead, Mr. Nunn.
So tomorrow, 1 p.m., correct, sir?
Yes.
That is correct.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else this evening? All right, Mr. Carlisle.
Just a couple good news items. We received notice from Congressman Posey's office that they did allocate the funding. I think it adds up to about $1.5 million for the stone crop drainage project. That's a project, much like the Public Works compound, that's been a long time coming. And I have to give credit to Lisa Frazier and Karen Miller, who have been driving force on getting this appropriations through. So we'll be looking at that project moving forward very shortly. The Public Works compound is nearing completion. We're waiting on power from FP&L for the lift station. So we're hoping to have a ribbon cutting sometime around the end of August or first part of September. And we're really looking forward to that project opening up. So there's a lot of good things going on in the city. So I thank you all for your support.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You're going to dynamite the other building about a week later?
Well, you know, if I may, the asbestos should be done in the old motel next week, and then we can let the PD, and then we can start moving with demolition. But yeah, I don't know if dynamite would be there. But,
I was talking about dynamiting the old Public Works.
I know. We'll give that some discussion thoughts and get back with you on that.
All right, that'd be fun anyway. That's all?
That's all.
All right, thank you. Great work on that grant. That your staff deserves outstanding. I mean, the numbers on that are over $1 million.
It's 1.5.
$1.5 million that we received in federal grant funding for that. Thank you, Congressman Posey, for that as well. Madam Clerk. Nothing this evening. All right. Councilmember McPartlin.
No, sir.
All right, thank you. And safe travels, sir. Councilmember Nunn.
Yeah, Mr. City Manager, do we need to discuss, the letter I received in the email today, yesterday from our 4 environmental groups?
It's your turn to discuss what you feel is appropriate.
Is it something we need to consider,
So,
in your opinion?
in my opinion, I think our staff is more than qualified to do the annexation and do the things that were asked to be sublet to some other entity. I think council has the backing of the city staff to make those decisions, and if it's something that we fail to perform on, there's things that this council can do, but I think that it is something that staff should be permitted to do. I think communicating with all the entities is paramount. Sure. No one should be excluded from the conversation, but I don't know that it's prudent upon the city council to turn over their delegation and their responsibilities to an outside entity unless that's something council want to do, and then you would have to really go out for a proposal for an RFQ. To do that, I don't think you can just turn over your responsibilities.
I'm very comfortable with our city staff and their abilities.
Can I term in for just a little bit?
Of course you can.
Okay, I think that if we need an outside entity to assist us for public relations purposes, that the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council would be that entity. And our staff was sufficiently knowledgeable to decide if they need some assistance. And the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council would be more than, you know, they have to review our future land use maps. They have to do all that stuff. They would be more than amenable to assist us in this process if we need outside help. I don't think we need to bring in someone from some other agency or something like that as was requested in that letter. But I do think that if the staff feels that they need assistance, maybe because of staffing issues or numbers of people or to try to get it done, that the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council would be someone that could provide some assistance in that. And they're not going to be unfair to anybody involved in the process.
Agreed. Great idea. I just felt like, you know, would like to think that they were respected local environmental organizations, and I know there's been issues in the past, but I felt like what they were asking for wasn't needed, and it felt like our team could handle this just fine with the skill sets they have. So, all right, thank you. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. Councilmember Dodd.
Okay, I just want to say that in this month, the Florida League of Cities is having their annual conference. And at that conference, our own mayor, Mr. Hill, is going to be given a 20-year pin for 20 years worth of service as an elected official. I just want to make sure that
clap now.
everybody knows that.
No clapping.
Oh, yeah, no, can't clap in here. Okay. And also, I think if we put a Ukrainian flag on that old facility over there, we might let Russia bomb us for us.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, I'm done.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and thank you for nominating me for that. And it's been an honor to serve this community, and I very much appreciate that nomination again. That leaves it up to me. I did have under here thanking staff so much for the hard work on the Stone Crop Dam issue, and thanking Congressman Posey as well. I also wanted to thank staff and to let the public know that our staff is second to none. And it's interesting that you just mentioned the 20 years of service, and I have been up here for a long, long time, and I've dealt with staff on many occasions on many issues, and many annexations and many land use issues, and I can tell you that easily the current staff that we have in place is light years ahead of any of those others, and the others were very, very capable of doing their job as well. I am so comfortable working with these individuals, starting with Mr. Carlisle. The level of experience Mr. Carlisle has, I mean, you could read through the request on the letter that we received, and they're asking that we have a consultant that has everything he has, and he has more. So the city residents should rest assured that the staff here in Sebastian is outstanding. and I'm very, very, very honored to be working with you to protect this community, and I know you guys will continue to do a great job. With that being said, I will move on to Vice Mayor Jones.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to bring a little lightness to this. This past weekend, this Saturday, at the Main Street Boat Ramp, we had the Treasure Coast Waterway cleanup. And there were a number of people that showed up. We had people that showed up in boats and went out to the spoiled islands. And I'd just like to give a special thank you to Kim Hagler and members of the Natural Resources Board that participated there during those hours that were there. Charles Stademan, Ruth Callahan, Thomas Carano, and Dr. Jeff Carrier. Also, CrossFit of Sebastian brought out a large group, and they picked up, we ended up collecting a total of 892 pounds of garbage in just about 4 hours from just in that area. We went to Saltwater Marina and then all the way down to Riverview Park. So that area in between there and just a couple of the spoiled islands. So, and some of the weirdest things we found out there was, one was, it may not be weird to some, but we had 300 square feet of rope, of carpet, 300 square feet of that. Some of the main things that we found that are detrimental to our wildlife and our ecosystem out there is we found a lot of plastic bottles and styrofoam cups and fishing line. So those kind of things that we need to make sure we police those things and keep those out of our Indian River Lagoon so that we can have a healthy environment here. This is why people come here, because it's so beautiful here. And I just employ everyone to do whatever they can if you see something along the riverfront or garbage that may float, because at one point it's going to go to the river. So if you see some garbage out there, pick it up, be nice, and protect our environment. Thank you. That's all I have.
Well, we appreciate that service you provide to the community, and that's a wonderful service. There being no further to attend to, we are adjourned.
We're done.